The twin paradox, when time does not flow the same. Imagine you have two twin brothers, identical down to every feature on their faces. One day, one of them decides to stay on Earth, living an ordinary life with work, family, and golden afternoons falling on the porch. The other steps onto a spaceship and travels at a speed close to the speed of light. Decades pass. The one on Earth grows old, hair turning white, skin wrinkling, his face deeply marked by time. But the one on the spaceship, when he returns, is much younger than his brother. The two who were born on the same day, at the same hour, now suddenly belong to two different generations. This is the twin paradox, a strange consequence of Einstein's theory of relativity. It challenges our deepest intuition, that time flows equally for everyone. In truth, time is not absolute. It stretches and shrinks depending on speed and gravity. For the one moving quickly, time slows down. For the one standing still, time moves faster. When you first hear this paradox, you may think it sounds like science fiction, but let your mind rest for a moment. It is not only physics, it is a mirror held up to life. Because, in one sense, each of us is also living at different speeds of time. Someone sitting in an office may feel a single day dragging on as if it were a year. Someone in the arms of their beloved may feel that a few hours vanish like a fleeting moment. On the clock, there are the same 24 hours, but in the heart, time expands and contracts like a sheet of elastic fabric. So the twin paradox is not only about the cosmos, but also about human experience. Objective time and subjective time are always out of sync. Think of a time when you waited for something important, a phone call with news, the door of an exam room opening, or a confession from someone you cared about. Each minute of waiting stretched like a century. But when joy arrived, every moment felt too short, and you wished it would last forever. Physical time had not changed, but your mind created its own river of time. In the twin paradox, one person lives more slowly because of the speed of light. In everyday life, you live more slowly or more quickly, depending on the meaning you place in each moment. And then the paradox cracks open another layer in how we understand age. If time can flow differently, then what is age, really? Is it just a number on paper, or is it the feeling you carry in your heart? A person who lives in dull repetition may grow old very fast. A person who lives with curiosity and joy may remain young, no matter their years. Perhaps age is not inside the calendar, but in the way you walk through your days. The twin paradox also carries a quiet sadness. Imagine, one twin leaves on a spaceship, and when he returns, he finds that his friends, his family, his loved ones have all grown old, and many have even passed away. He is still young, but lost inside a world that has changed. He has lived in a different time, and the cost of that difference is loneliness. There is a philosophical echo here. Each of us also lives in our own private time. When you are caught up in work, you may not notice how quickly your child's childhood has passed. When you are absorbed in chasing success, your parents may have aged in a different rhythm of time. You return and realize you and they no longer share the same speed of life. That too is a form of the twin paradox, not requiring the speed of light, only a difference in how we use our time. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine yourself sitting on a spaceship. Through the window, stars streak by as endless lines of light. Inside the ship, time slows, each second stretched long. But on Earth, your friends and loved ones are aging quickly. Would you choose to slow down and live longer, or would you choose to flow with the common rhythm so you do not lose those you love? The question is not only for physicists. It is for all of us. Is living longer more important than living together? Unsynchronized time. When love and presence become the answer. In the previous section, we saw the twin paradox from relativity. One twin leaves on the spaceship and returns younger, while the other has grown old. Behind that equation is a human sadness. Time does not always flow equally for everyone. And in daily life, this happens more often than we realize. Picture two lovers. One lives in a busy city, each day packed with work, meetings, and endless plans. A day passes for them like a blink. The other lives in a quiet town, where each morning stretches long, each afternoon drifts slowly, each rain seems endless. When they meet again, they realize they are no longer in the same rhythm of time. One feels as if years have raced past, while the other feels stuck in the same place. That, too, is a twin paradox, created not by light, but by the way we spend and feel our time. Some say love needs synchronized time. When two people share an afternoon, a trip, a meal, they synchronize their lives so that their hearts beat to the same rhythm. But when time falls out of step one, rushing too fast, the other staying too long distance begins to appear. Not physical distance, but a distance inside the perception of time. The twin paradox reminds us that presence is the key to synchronizing time. When you are truly present with someone listening, feeling, sitting quietly together, your time and theirs merge. Even an hour can feel as deep as a day, and if you are absent in the meeting itself, mind distracted, phone buzzing constantly, then even a long day shrinks to a thin few empty minutes. Think of a memory with a loved one who has passed. You may still remember their face, their voice. Even after many years, those memories feel alive, as if yesterday. Physical time has gone far, but memory's time has stood still. You carry them in your own paradox. They are both far away and right here. In love, in family, in friendship, we live these paradoxes all the time. A friend who has been away for years embraces you, and it feels as if no time has passed. An old friend looks into your eyes, and in that glance, everything returns to the beginning. In these moments, physical time is defeated by something stronger, affection. So what does the twin paradox teach us? It whispers, unsynchronized time is inevitable, but you can synchronize it through presence and love. Imagine you and someone dear watching the sunset. The sun lowers, time moves on. But if both of you are silent, breathing together, watching the fading light, that moment becomes an anchor in the river of time. Later, even if you live at different speeds, the memory of that sunset will pull you back into the same stream. Einstein once said, "Time is only a persistent illusion." Perhaps he was right not only about physics, but also about the heart. Because in love, in kinship, a brief moment can stretch forever, and a long absence can collapse into a single embrace. The twin paradox, at its core, does not only ask, how does time flow, but also, who do you want to spend your time with? Because if you do not choose, you may travel too fast, too far, and when you return, you may realize that those who mattered most have aged in a different rhythm, and you no longer have the chance to synchronize. Tonight, as you lie down, breathe slowly, and think of the ones you love. Ask yourself, is my time flowing in step with theirs? Am I truly present when I am with them? If the answer is yes, then you have already solved the paradox, because you have synchronized your heart with the world through presence. And if the answer is not yet, do not be afraid. Tomorrow, when you open your eyes, you can begin. You can call someone, embrace someone, listen to a story. You can sit still, a little slower, letting your time flow with theirs. And in that moment, all distance dissolves. The paradox of omnipotence. When power meets its own limit. Imagine an omnipotent being, one who can do absolutely anything. People call it God, or simply absolute power. And then comes a question that sounds silly, but has kept philosophers, theologians, and seekers of truth awake for centuries. Can an omnipotent being create a stone so heavy that even he cannot lift it? If the answer is yes, then he is not omnipotent, because he cannot lift the stone. If the answer is no, then he is also not omnipotent, because there is something he cannot do create such a stone? The paradox flashes like lightning in the night. Omnipotence contradicts itself within its very definition. When you first hear this question, you might smile and think it is only wordplay. But let your mind rest on it, and you will see it reflect something deeper: the limits of power, of control, of the ego's hunger to dominate the world. Picture yourself in a smaller version of this. Have you ever wished, "I wish I could do everything"? You want to master all skills, succeed in every field, be loved by everyone. But if you truly could do everything, you would soon realize a paradox. Everything would lose its meaning. If you win every game, victory has no value. If you have every love, none will feel special. If you control everything, there is no joy of surprise left in life. Omnipotence, it turns out, carries emptiness within it. The paradox of omnipotence is not only theology. It appears in daily psychology. Have you ever tried to control everything around you? Wanting your work, your family, your love, your health to follow the plan you wrote? And then, the harder you try, the more you realize some things are beyond you. A friend does not act as you hoped. A plan collapses. An unexpected event arrives. You get angry, desperate, and then you realize, the more you seek omnipotence, the more powerless you feel. This is your stone, the stone so heavy you cannot lift, created by your own desire for absolute control. Look at history. How many kings and empires dreamed of absolute power? They conquered, expanded, gathered every treasure. And the larger the empire grew, the heavier the burden, until one day it collapsed under its own weight. Omnipotence turned itself into a stone that could not be lifted. Or, in modern science, humanity longs to dominate nature, building technologies to control everything. But those very technologies have created climate change, ecological crises, threats to life itself. The power of control became a stone too heavy for humanity to carry. Tonight, as you lie down and think about the paradox of omnipotence, ask yourself, in my own life, what is the stone I have created? Perhaps it is excessive ambition that exhausts you. Perhaps it is expectations piled so high on your shoulders that you cannot bear them. Perhaps it is the hunger for perfection that makes you never feel enough. And when you look deeply into this paradox, you may realize a truth that feels upside down. True strength is not the ability to do everything, but the wisdom to know what does not need to be done. Freedom does not lie in controlling everything, but in letting go of what cannot be controlled. The paradox of omnipotence is not meant to deny God, nor to deny human dreams. It comes as a reminder. Every power carries a limit, and it is the limit that gives power its meaning. Without limits, without cannot, then can has no value. Without darkness, light loses its meaning. In the night, the paradox of omnipotence whispers, you do not need omnipotence to live fully. You only need to see that imperfection, that limit, is where life blossoms. When limits become a gift. In the previous section, we saw the paradox of omnipotence, a stone so heavy that even the omnipotent cannot lift it. It sounds like a riddle, but if you look closely, it reflects human life itself. The more we seek omnipotence, the more we encounter powerlessness. So perhaps the answer lies in the opposite direction, that limits are the gift and omnipotence is the illusion. Think of music. A beautiful melody is not beautiful because it has infinite notes. It is beautiful because it is shaped within the limits of a scale. The limit creates the song. If every sound could occur at once, what you hear would be only noise. Think of painting. A picture exists because the canvas has boundaries, because colors have edges. Without limits, the painting dissolves into nothingness. It is the square frame that gives every brushstroke meaning. Life is the same. If you could live forever, never die, would each day still matter? It is because time is finite that we treasure sunsets, raindrops, the smile of a loved one. Death, the ultimate limit, turns out to be what makes life precious. The paradox of omnipotence reminds us, not being able to do everything is not failure, but the chance to choose what matters most. A person who can buy everything will soon be bored, but someone who can only choose one thing will pour their heart into it. A life that can go anywhere may become lost, but a life that must walk a narrow path will find meaning in each step. Perhaps imperfection is not a curse, but the soil where depth grows. Return to the stone of omnipotence. If it truly could be created, the lesson is not about who wins in logic, but this: even omnipotence must accept limits, and once accepted, those limits become part of wholeness. Do you remember the last time you let go of an ambition too heavy? Maybe leaving a job that did not fit, ending a relationship no longer healthy, or abandoning a dream that drained you. In that moment, you felt lighter. You realized true strength is not in holding everything, but in the ability to say no. Strange, is it not, that in the moment you admit you cannot, you discover freedom. Freedom from the pressure to control everything. Freedom to live, to enjoy, to be present in small moments. In Eastern literature, there is a familiar image: the wise person who retreats, living in a valley, in harmony with nature. They have no power, no omnipotence, yet they are at peace. Why? Because they are not haunted by the need to lift the stone of the universe. They lift only a bowl of water, a blade of grass, and see wholeness within it. And in daily life, you notice this paradox. Each time you smile at something small, a warm meal, a brief conversation, a familiar song, these are limited moments, small moments, yet they carry complete happiness. The paradox of omnipotence, seen this way, is no longer a challenge of logic. It becomes a gentle reminder: do not try to be omnipotent. Even omnipotence would trap itself. Be human, with limits. It is precisely this fragility that gives you the chance to taste true joy. Tonight, as you lie down, you may think of your own stones, the ambitions, the burdens you still strain to lift. You may feel tired, but remember, you do not need to lift the entire stone. You only need to put it down and listen to your breath. Within that limit, something infinite opens peace. Newcomb's paradox: free will in the shadow of prophecy. Imagine a dimly lit room where two boxes sit in front of you. The first box, transparent, and you can clearly see $1,000 inside. The second box, completely sealed, and you have no idea what is inside. It could contain $1 million, or it could be completely empty. The rules of the game are simple. You have two choices: take both boxes, or take only the sealed box. It sounds easy, does it not? Everyone wants to maximize their chances, but this is where the paradox begins. The sealed box has already been set according to a perfect prediction of your action. A superintelligence, or a prophetic machine, has observed, analyzed, and predicted long before you entered the room. If it predicted that you would be greedy and take both boxes, it left the sealed box empty. If it predicted that you would trust and take only the sealed box, it placed $1 million inside. In other words, your future, the very moment you reach out to choose, has already been foretold. And now you must choose between two paths. Trust the prophecy and take only the sealed box, hoping that $1 million is already inside. Or defy the prophecy and take both boxes, in which case the sealed box will almost certainly be empty. This is Newcomb's paradox, a famous intellectual puzzle that has baffled philosophers, mathematicians, and scientists for decades. It does not only ask what you would choose, but it asks, are you truly free when your decision has already been predicted? Put yourself in this situation. You stare at the two boxes. A voice whispers in your mind, take both. You lose nothing. If the sealed box has money, you get 1 million plus an extra 1,000. If the sealed box is empty, you still walk away with 1,000. That is the logic of traditional reasoning called the dominance argument. But then another voice rises. No, the prophecy is always right. If you take both, the sealed box is definitely empty. If you take only the sealed one, you will receive the full million. That is the logic of trust called the expected value argument. You see, in a single instant, you are torn between two worlds of logic. One says, do not miss what is guaranteed in the transparent box. The other says, do not be foolish. The prophecy has already accounted for everything. If you want to be rich, you must risk trusting the sealed box. And no matter what you choose, you will always doubt your own decision. This paradox is not just about numbers. It cuts into free will, the greatest question of humanity. If the future can be perfectly predicted, is your decision still free? If a machine can know what you will choose, then what about the self that is thinking, hesitating? Does it truly have the power to decide? Or is everything just a script already written, with you only performing it? Think of your own life. Have you ever felt that you are repeating an old pattern? You tell yourself you will change, yet you end up choosing the same kind of partner, the same kind of job, the same kind of mistake. It feels as if there is a prophet inside your mind that already knows what you will do, and you only carry out the prediction. You call it habit, fate, or nature, but the feeling is the same. Am I really free, or am I just a puppet of hidden causes? Or consider modern technology. Algorithms on social media already seem to know what you want to see. They predict so precisely that before you even click, they show you the video you enjoy, the advertisement that catches your interest, even suggest the person you might fall in love with. At that moment, you feel as though you are choosing, but in truth, you are simply walking a path that the prophecy, the algorithm, has already laid out. You still feel free or not? Tonight, Newcomb's paradox places you before a mirror. Is the freedom you feel truly freedom? Or is it only an illusion carefully programmed? If a prophecy could predict every one of your actions, who would you be? An independent being, or a book already written, with its pages only being turned? And the paradox deepens when you realize, even if you try to rebel, to choose differently, just to prove that you are free, the prophecy has already predicted that act of rebellion too. You cannot escape, because even your resistance has already been accounted for. Perhaps what makes Newcomb so haunting is not the money inside the box, but the unease in your heart. Am I really in control of my life? That question echoes in the dark, leaving you restless at night. The paradox offers no answer. It only leaves a space where you must reflect. Freedom may not mean escaping prophecy, but living fully inside the script as it unfolds. When prophecy becomes reality in life, imagine again the feeling of sitting before Newcomb's two boxes. You know that some intelligence has already calculated your every move. A chill runs down your spine when you realize even your hesitation, even the idea of choosing differently to break the prediction, is already inside the prophecy's picture. You think you are free, but perhaps you are only acting out a role written long ago. What makes this paradox terrifying is that in our modern world, we truly are beginning to face such prophecies, not from mythical sages or metaphysical machines, but from algorithms and predictive models. Have you noticed that Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok often know exactly what you want to watch? Before you even search, the video is there, perfectly matching your interest and mood. Amazon or other shopping platforms know what you want to buy before you realize it yourself. The ads appear so precisely that you feel someone is reading your mind. This is the modern version of a prophetic superintelligence. It does not read the future with magic, but with data. Every click, every second you pause on a screen, every purchase you make, every step you take with your phone in your pocket. It accumulates, calculates, and predicts with frightening accuracy. And when you finally make a choice, you believe it was free will, but in truth, you have walked exactly the track the prophecy laid out. The question arises, does free will still have a place in a world of perfect prediction? Think of a simple example. One evening, you plan to open your laptop to work, but a notification pops up with a new movie, exactly your favorite genre, exactly the actor you admire. You tell yourself, I will only watch 10 minutes, then return to work. But the entire night passes, and your work remains untouched. You think you chose to watch the movie, but in truth, that choice was already activated by machine learning codes that predicted the weak point of your mind. Or think of love. Dating apps predict who you are likely to match with based on behavior data, from how you swipe to the kind of music you listen to. You feel as though you accidentally met the right person. But was it really an accident? Or just a prediction calculated to perfection? And if so, is the freedom to choose whom you love only a beautiful illusion? Newcomb's paradox in modern life also appears in psychology and neuroscience. Researchers have discovered that the brain begins preparing for an action before you are consciously aware that you have chosen. Experiments measuring electrical signals in the brain show that about half a second before you think you have decided, your brain has already initiated the command. This leaves many unsettled. So who is really deciding? Me? Or a biological mechanism already set in motion? If every decision can be predicted by neural data, does free will truly exist? Or is it all just a chain of cause and effect, with consciousness arriving late as a storyteller, justifying what has already happened? But the paradox would not be complete if we stopped at despair. Perhaps free will does not mean escaping every prediction, but accepting that we are part of the causal flow and still choosing to live meaningfully. Think of it this way. The prophecy may know which box you will take, but you are still the one reaching out your hand. The algorithm may suggest the video, but you can still close it and step outside for a walk. The brain may initiate behavior, but you can still train habits, change your environment, and gradually reprogram yourself. Perhaps freedom is not the absence of causes, but the ability to see those causes and act upon them. Like an actor realizing he is inside a play, yet instead of despairing, he chooses to perform with all his heart, making the role profound and meaningful. Tonight, as you lie down, ask yourself, how many of your decisions today were truly free? And how many were the product of prediction, of habit, of invisible chains of cause and effect? You may feel small inside that network, but Newcomb's paradox also offers a gift. Even if everything is predicted, you can still be aware. And in that awareness lies a taste of freedom, not in breaking prophecy, but in living fully within each moment, knowing you are walking through this script, but still leaving the unique imprint of your own heart. The cat in the box, and the uneasiness about reality. Imagine that you have in front of you a sealed box. Inside that box is a cat. Along with it, there is a strange mechanism, a vial of poison connected to a radioactive particle. If the particle decays, the mechanism will break the vial, and the cat will die. If the particle does not decay, the cat will live. All of this takes place inside the sealed box, unseen by anyone, and the paradox begins here. Before the box is opened, is the cat alive or dead? In the world of quantum physics, where particles smaller than atoms behave in bizarre ways, it is said that until it is observed, the radioactive particle is both decayed and not decayed. It exists in a superposition. And because the mechanism ties the particle's fate to the fate of the cat is also both alive and dead at the same time, in the same moment. Only when you open the box and look inside does reality choose a state. Either the cat lives or the cat dies. The story may sound like a joke, but it is one of the most famous thought experiments of the 20th century, Schrodinger's cat. And it shakes the very foundation of what we believe. That the outside world exists clearly and independently of whether we look at it or not. Try to breathe slowly. And notice, when you close your eyes, does this room still exist? When you sleep, does the world keep moving? Or does it only appear again when you wake up? Intuition tells us, of course it continues. But the paradox of the cat in the box whispers, what if everything only takes shape when you direct your awareness toward it? The deepest uneasiness lies here. If observation is what makes reality fixed, then what is reality when no one observes it? Is the world a silent symphony, waiting for a listener to bring forth the melody? Is the universe a blank screen, waiting for an eye to ignite its colors? Picture a closer example. You have an important email waiting in your inbox. Before you open it, that email contains both good news and bad news. It exists in both states, at least in your mind. Only when you click and open it does the truth appear. Before that, you live in a foggy space where all possibilities coexist. The story of Schrodinger's cat confuses us because it mirrors our own experience. We live inside overlapping possibilities, and only when we face them does reality collapse into a single outcome. But there is an even deeper paradox. If the cat is both alive and dead before we open the box, then it is our very act of observation that forces it into one fate. This raises a chilling question. Is consciousness a co-creator of reality? Is your existence simply the fact that you are looking, that you are thinking, shaping the world more than you realize? Imagine you are walking through a forest. Birds sing, leaves rustle, the wind blows cool across your face. But if you were not there, would those sounds exist? A classic question in philosophy once asked, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? Schrodinger's cat raises the question to a new level. Not only sound, but the entire state of the world may depend on whether it is observed. Tonight, as you lie down and think about the cat in the box, you may feel your heart shiver slightly, because in the dark, you too are like that cat. You are living within countless possibilities. Tomorrow you may smile at someone. You may encounter an unexpected event. You may stumble. You may succeed. All of these possibilities exist, layered together, in this night. Only when you open your eyes in the morning, step out and live, does the world choose for you one branch of reality. And the paradox whispers, if your consciousness truly participates in shaping the world, then have you ever been just an audience? Or are you a co-writer, scripting the play as it unfolds? Perhaps the final truth is not about whether the cat lives or dies, but about this. Your existence and the existence of the world are never separate. And that makes reality itself a mirror. You look into it, and it reflects you, reality in life. When we become the one who opens the box, think back to the last time you loved someone. Before your confession was spoken, every possibility existed at once. They might accept, they might reject, they might stay silent, they might smile. In that moment, your heart was like the cat in the box, alive in joy, dead in pain, both at the same time. Only when you opened your mouth, when your words took flight, and their response appeared, did the reality of love take shape. The same happens when you walk into a meeting with a new proposal. Before the door opens, countless outcomes overlap. You might be praised, you might be dismissed, you might be ignored. All possibilities exist like parallel branches. Only when you present and the reactions of others become clear, does the world choose one result. And there you sit, like the one opening Schrodinger's box, witnessing one possibility become real, while countless others fade into nothing. This makes us realize human life is a chain of box openings. Every decision, every step, is like leaning over to peek into the sealed box. We never know the outcome beforehand. But it is precisely this uncertainty that makes life colorful. If everything were fixed, already known, would we still feel suspense, still tremble, still stay awake through the night in anticipation? And the paradox whispers, maybe it is precisely because you do not know that you are truly alive. Think of dreams. When you dream, you believe the dream is real. You run, you laugh, you cry inside it. Only when you wake up do you realize it was only a product of the mind. Yet in the dream, those experiences happened to you. Your heart raced, your muscles tensed, your tears fell. So where is the boundary between dream and reality? Perhaps, like Schrodinger's cat, we are both dreaming and real until the gaze of consciousness separates them. Do you notice the familiarity? It is like the way we remember the past. A childhood memory may have been distorted over time, but in your mind, it still exists in superposition, both real and not real. Only when you retell that story does the memory solidify into one version. But who can say that version is accurate? Perhaps life is not a film already shot, but more like a book unwritten, where each page is defined only as you turn it. You are the one opening the box every day. And each time you open it, a world appears, while countless other worlds close silently. This brings a power both frightening and beautiful. Your consciousness is not only passively observing, but perhaps co-creating. When you direct your attention toward a thought, you feed it. When you give care to a dream, you make it more real. When you believe in a path, you help bring it into existence. Opening the box is not only an act of discovery, but also an act of creation. But the paradox also warns, if you look at everything through fear, the world that appears will carry the color of fear. If you look through anger, everyone you meet will turn into an opponent. The same box, but depending on how you observe, reality lights up in a different hue. So perhaps the world is not entirely out there, but also a reflection of your inner state. Think of the last time you were anxious. A small sound in the night made you jump, imagining danger. But on a peaceful evening, the same sound did not bother you at all. Did the world change? Or did you open the box with a different gaze, and the world responded accordingly? This does not mean that you create the whole of reality. The box still contains its objective uncertainty. But it reminds us, the way you observe can change how reality reveals itself to you. Like Schrodinger's cat, both life and death lie hidden, but your gaze determines which moment becomes the truth. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine yourself sitting before a box. Inside it are all the possibilities of tomorrow: success and failure, smiles and tears, calm and storm. You do not yet know, you have not yet opened it. And that is what makes it magical, because tomorrow is not predetermined. It is waiting for you to open it with your eyes, with your heart, with your actions. And in that moment, you suddenly understand. Every Schrodinger's cat in your life only wants you to live fully when you open the box. Not to control the outcome, but to embrace uncertainty as part of the miracle. So the next time your heart trembles before a decision, remember, you are standing before a box. And in the very moment you open it, whatever the result may be, you are truly touching reality. The ship of Theseus and the question of the self. Let your mind drift to another scene. The night is the same, but this time there is no train whistle, no haunting lever. Before you stands an ancient ship, large and majestic, docked at the harbor. This is the ship of Theseus, the vessel of the hero in Greek mythology. It is said that after Theseus completed his great voyage, his ship was preserved as a symbol. But as time passed, one rotten plank after another was replaced with new wood. Then the sails, the ropes, even the bolts were changed, until one day, not a single piece of the original ship remained. And suddenly, the question becomes strange. Is this still the ship of Theseus? Close your eyes and imagine. You step onto its deck, your feet pressing against polished planks, the smell of fresh wood rising. It feels sturdier, more beautiful than the old worn vessel. But in your heart, you still wonder, if everything has been replaced, what is left? Only the name? Or is it the spirit? And if so, what exactly creates that spirit? This paradox does not stop at wood or iron. It shines directly upon you. Your body, cell by cell, is constantly renewed. People say that after 7 years, nearly every cell in your body has been replaced. So then, are you from 7 years ago still the same as you today? If every strand of hair, every drop of blood, every wrinkle has changed, then what is the constant between me yesterday and me today? Think of memory. You recall a warm childhood afternoon, running barefoot across a field. But that memory is no longer intact. It has been shaped by imagination, filled in by present emotion. Are you certain that the child in the memory and the person listening to these words are truly the same? Or are they two different characters, tied together only by a fragile thread called memory? Some may say, the self is memory. I remember, therefore I exist. But if one day you forgot everything, if your memory were erased, would you still be you? A person with amnesia, looking around without recognizing family, not even knowing their own name, have they become a completely different person? If you say, no, they are still themselves, then the self does not lie fully in memory. But if you say, yes, they are now someone else, then the self is so fragile that it disappears the moment memory slips away. The story of the ship of Theseus, therefore, is not just distant philosophy. It whispers to you, who are you? What in you never changes? And when you try to find a fixed point, you realize everything is flowing. In the mirror, your face changes year by year. In your mind, beliefs shift, dreams evolve, even the way you love changes. The self may not be a fixed object, but a continuous stream. Like the flame of a candle, it looks the same from moment to moment. But in truth, every particle of light is new. Every drop of wax is replaced. What remains is the shape of the flame, not the matter inside. If so, then your ship is also changing every day. You are never the same person as yesterday. But the paradox is this: if you are always changing, why do you still feel there is one continuous me from childhood until now? Perhaps that me is not a solid thing, but a story. And each morning when you wake, you continue that story, adding one more chapter, linking it to what came before. Think of a journal. Each page is different, but the book bears the same title. You are the same. Not a rigid object that lasts forever, but a novel being written day by day. The ship of Theseus, once fully rebuilt, is still called Theseus's ship because people hold on to the story of it. And you are the same. And then, the paradox deepens. Suppose all the old planks of the ship were gathered and reassembled into another vessel. Which one is the true ship of Theseus? The one renewed piece by piece, or the one reconstructed from the originals? And in that case, where does Theseus lie, in the new or in the old? You see, this question points directly at us. If you lost all old memories and built new experiences, would you still be you? Or does the old you live in the memories left behind? Which self is real, and which is only an illusion born of replacement? Tonight, as you lie still with your eyes closed and your breath soft, you may feel the paradox seeping in. It tells you, you are never one and never two. You are both the ship replaced plank by plank, and the ship pieced together from memories. You are both and neither. And perhaps the point is not to find the true ship, but to recognize the fragility of every idea of me. When you loosen your grip on the thought, I must be something fixed, you can breathe more easily, more lightly. You may even smile. I am a flow. And a flow does not need to be fixed to be beautiful. Human beings as ships with new planks. Now, let us return to you. The ship of Theseus may be only a symbol, but each of us is a living ship, renewed plank by plank. Your body changes slowly but steadily. Hair grows and falls. Skin sheds and regenerates. Blood circulates and is replaced. After many years, almost no cell remains from the day you were born. So is the child with bright eyes and a pure laugh truly the same as the person sitting here now, heavy with thought and marked by time? If so, what connects the two? Perhaps it is memory. But memory is faint and unreliable. Can you be sure that your memory of your first steps or your first morning at school is still intact as it really was? Or has your brain repainted that picture with new colors, drawn from photos, from your parents' stories, and from unconscious imagination? If memory is a ship assembled from different planks, then what is the truth? Think of relationships. A first love, long messages, trembling hands. Does that remain the same love after 10 years, when both of you have changed, when passion gives way to familiarity, sometimes to fatigue? If people are always changing, then is the we of a relationship still the we of the beginning? Or do we love a new version of each other every day and call it by the same name only to keep the continuity? The paradox of the ship of Theseus strikes us with this weight. The self is never fixed, yet we live as if it were unchanging. We keep old photos, hold on to keepsakes, and say, "This was me back then." But in truth, that was only a plank long since replaced. The person you are today, looking at that photo, is like a stranger gazing at a ship in a museum, still calling it the ship of Theseus, but knowing every piece of wood is different. This both confuses and frees us. It confuses because we see the instability of identity. It frees because we can let go of the burden of the past. If I am only a flow, then my mistakes are only bends in the stream that have already passed. If I always change, then there is no reason to believe that I will always be like this. The ability to regenerate, to become a new version, is always present in every breath. And the paradox deepens when we look to the future. Suppose there were a technology to copy your entire consciousness, every memory, every habit, and place it into another body identical to yours right now. That other person steps out, smiles at you, and says, "I am you." Then who is the real you? The original or the copy? Both carry the same childhood memories, the same scar on the knee, the same fear of the dark. But once the two exist side by side, the one true self dissolves. The self that seemed so certain turns out to be a hazy concept, floating between memory fragments and the continuity of awareness. Someone once said, "You never step into the same river twice, because the river is always flowing, and you are no longer the same either." The ship of Theseus, the river, human beings, they all tell the same truth. Life is change. Yet we still call it by a continuous name. So tonight, as you lie down, think, am I still the same person who woke up this morning? In one sense, no. You have changed after every conversation, every fleeting thought, every small emotion you had today. But in another sense, yes. Because you still feel a thread connecting through all the changes, so that you can say, "I am still me." The paradox of the ship of Theseus does not force you to choose an answer. It only wants to place in your heart a new quiet. I am both, and I am neither. I am changing, yet I am continuous. I am lost, yet I am present. And when you accept that paradox, you may breathe more freely, because you understand you do not need to cling to being something fixed. You only need to live fully in the flow, so that each version of you is a beautiful chapter in the book being written. And so, the ship of Theseus is no longer just an old tale. It is sailing within you, every night, every day, carrying the wind of change and the light of continuity. And you, the passenger on that ship, will never step off until the voyage comes to its end. The lever and the struggle in the night. Imagine you are standing on a small bridge, and beneath it lies a railway track. A piercing sound rises, and a train is rushing forward at a terrifying speed. Ahead, on the track, 5 people are tied down, unable to escape. But you notice, right beside you, there is a lever. If you pull it, the train will switch tracks. It sounds like a rescue, until you see that on the other track, one person is also tied down. And so the paradox flares. Should you pull the lever? If you do nothing, the train will kill 5 people. If you pull the lever, only one person will die, but it will be because of your direct decision. In that moment, the night wind chills your neck. Your heart pounds, your hands tremble on the iron handle. This is no longer a distant story in a philosophy book. It is a mirror held up to you. When faced with the death of others, will you choose to act or to stand by? This paradox, the trolley problem, has confounded generations of philosophers, psychologists, and even scientists designing artificial intelligence. It has no clear answer. And perhaps that is why it keeps you awake. Because in the silence of night, you see yourself again and again before that lever, unsure whether your hand should stay still or pull. If you keep your hand still, you may comfort yourself. I did nothing, so the disaster was not my doing. But is that true? Because you could have saved 5 people, and you did not. Your inaction was also a choice. In the dark, the eyes of those 5 seem to stare at you, waiting for a decision. If you pull the lever, you save 5 lives. But in that instant, you also become the one who kills. One innocent person has died not by fate, but by your hand. When you look into the mirror, it is your face, not the train, that you see. The paradox does not lie in choosing the lesser evil, but in this: no matter what you choose, you lose absolute purity. In this world, sometimes there is no perfect path. To live is to brush against invisible bloodstains, and that is why this experiment haunts us. It reveals the truth we try to avoid, that every choice has a cost. Now try applying this to real life. You may never face a train charging toward bound strangers, but you have faced choices. Spend more time at work to support your family, or stay beside your child so as not to miss their childhood. Either way, you feel you have sacrificed something. Or, as a leader, you may cut staff, keep 5, or keep 1. On paper, it is management. But in your heart, it is a sweating hand on a lever. Some will say, choose the option that brings the greater good. That is utilitarianism, valuing the happiness of the majority above all. But if so, would you sacrifice a loved one to save 5 strangers? Others will insist, no, killing even one is wrong. That is deontological ethics, keeping unshakable principles. But if so, could you watch 5 lives be lost, just to keep your own hands clean? The lever thus becomes a symbol, a small handle, bearing the weight of immense responsibility. It forces you to see the fragility of every moral concept you once trusted. It shows you that sometimes it is not right or wrong, but the crack in your heart that is the answer. Tonight, as you lie down, you may hear in your mind the distant sound of a train whistle. It carries no passengers. It carries questions. It carries the faces of people you have never met, yet who are bound to your choices. And you may quietly ask, if tomorrow I stood before that lever, what would I do? Perhaps you will never know. But it is precisely that uncertainty, that struggle in your heart, that unsolvable twist, that is the purpose of this thought experiment. It does not aim to give you an answer. It only places a mirror between your hands, so you see yourself in the moment, torn apart by morality. And perhaps, in the darkness, as you close your eyes, you will feel your hand still on that lever, trembling, never ceasing to tremble. Variations of the lever. If the 5 people, 1 person scenario is already enough to keep you awake at night, then imagine what happens when that paradox is twisted into more layers. These are called variations of the trolley problem. Each variation is like a new door opening, pulling us deeper into a labyrinth of morality where there is no perfect way out. Suppose this time you are still standing on the bridge, watching the train hurtling toward 5 people, but now there is no lever. Instead, right beside you stands a large, strong man. If you push him down onto the tracks, his body will stop the train, saving 5 lives, but the cost will be his death. What would you do? The paradox becomes harsher. Before, when you pulled the lever, you still kept a certain distance, you only redirected the consequence. But now, you must touch with your own hand, pushing someone to their death in order to save others. The utilitarian reasoning is still the same. Save 5, sacrifice 1. But emotionally, it feels entirely different. Most people hesitate, because here, your hand is stained not only in theory, but in direct action. The question rises sharply. Why do we recoil from pushing, yet feel more willing to pull the lever? The outcome is the same, but our moral intuition reacts differently. Is it because we do not care only about the number of lives saved, but also about the manner in which it happens? Is morality the mathematics of lives, or a subtle symphony of emotions, principles, and intuition? Now, let us twist the paradox one more turn. What if that strong man is not a stranger, but your father, or your beloved child? Would you dare to sacrifice them to save 5 strangers? Or would you hold them back, letting the 5 perish? In the darkness, this is no longer a mental exercise. It is a knife cutting straight into the heart. Here, morality reveals its deepest contradiction. We want to believe in universal principles for all humanity, but our hearts lean toward the familiar faces we love. What we call love is precisely the thing that breaks every mathematical formula of fairness. And then, the modern world drags this paradox out of the books and into reality. Engineers designing self-driving cars must program them to make choices when accidents are unavoidable. Will the car swerve right and kill 1 person, or continue forward and kill 5? If there are children inside the car, but elderly people outside, who should be prioritized? You see, the trolley problem is no longer a theoretical game. It is a cold line of code being written into electronic brains that may one day decide life and death on your behalf. So, what can we do? Some attempt to create lists of principles, ranking priorities. But this itself leads to another paradox. Would you accept human lives being ranked inside a formula? If we say, a child is worth more than an elder, do you truly agree? Or do you feel a chill of horror when life is reduced to numbers? Perhaps the true power of the trolley problem does not lie in forcing us to pick a choice, but in stripping away the illusion that morality is always simple. It whispers that every important decision in life comes with shadows. And sometimes, to live means to accept walking with those shadows, not running away, not denying them. Think back to a difficult decision you once made. Maybe it was leaving a stable job to pursue your passion, worrying your family. Maybe it was ending a relationship, knowing it would cause pain. Maybe it was choosing who would stay and who would go in a project. In each of those decisions, perhaps you were standing before an invisible lever, and no matter what you chose, you carried both relief and wounds. So, when night falls and you lie still in the dark, the image of the lever is no longer just an intellectual puzzle. It becomes a symbol for every imperfect choice in your life. And the paradox is this: it is precisely those imperfect choices that make you human. A human who can tremble, who can regret, who can love, and who can fear. That imagined train will never stop. It still roars forward in the human mind, century after century. And each of us, at some moment, will find ourselves standing before the lever hands trembling, heart heavy. And in that very moment, we are invited to look inward and ask, what do I truly value most? For which choice am I willing to bear responsibility? And perhaps the answer will never be certain. It will shift with time, with love, with fear. But it is precisely that uncertainty that gives depth to a human life. Warning, before you have trouble sleeping. Warning, what you are about to hear may open a door you have never touched before. Once that door cracks open, the wind of questions may sweep in and gently shake the warm blanket of everyday beliefs. Of course, you can still sleep, but perhaps before you do, you might want to stand up, take a few steps in the dark room, and ask yourself, if everything I know is only a carefully woven dream, then what is still real? Let the soft light of the night fall upon your shoulders. Inhale slowly, hold for a beat, then exhale gently. Somewhere outside the window, the world is silent, like the surface of a lake. But inside your mind, a drop of water has just fallen, the first spark of doubt. It is not loud, not violent. It only glows, like a tiny phosphorescent speck on the night. If everything I see passes through fragile nerves, if the brain only knows electrical impulses and chemicals, then how is it different from a screen projecting a movie called My Life? Thought experiments do not come to deny reality. They come like mirrors, placed face to face, to multiply your image into 2, into 3, into infinity. They do not need laboratories. They only need a chair, a steady breath, and a mind willing to stay awake a few more minutes before drifting to sleep. You do not need to become a philosopher tonight. You only need to become yourself, but seeing in a slightly different way. Let us begin with a simple game of imagination. Close your eyes, you may keep them half open if you like, and picture a white room. In the middle of the room is a transparent glass jar. Inside, there is a warm brain, kept alive by nutrient fluid and connected to a supercomputer. That computer sends the brain every signal you are familiar with: the smell of rain, the rustle of a jacket, the taste of salt on your lips, the warmth of a gaze that makes your heart race. That brain also has a name, an age, a story. It remembers journeys, scars, lullabies. It believes in the blue sky. It believes in its own hand resting on its chest. But all of it is only signals woven by a very intelligent system. You might smile and say, "But I am not in any jar. I am lying on my own bed." Of course, you are here with your old pillow, your blanket that still carries the scent of the sun. But think about it. How do you know this? Because your eyes see it? Because your hands touch it? Because your memory tells you that you hung your blanket on the balcony this afternoon? All of those seeing, touching, remembering are still signals. Do you have any evidence that does not pass through signals? Is there a secret door that lets you step outside your own brain to check if reality is truly what you think it is? Do not be afraid. This is not an accusation that everything is fake. It is only an invitation. Set down the glass of belief on the table and look at the table itself. Even if the water is real, the table is real. The way you know they are real is more fragile than you think, because the entire bridge between me and the world is a suspension bridge called the nervous system, beautiful, intricate, but always trembling in the wind. You may ask, if I cannot prove otherwise, what should I do? Must I doubt everything? No. You do not need to smash the mirror just because it may reflect wrongly. You only need to recognize that you are looking through a mirror. That alone allows a thin mist of habit to fade. You will still eat dinner, still work, still love someone as before. But in every act, a slender thread of awareness will remind you, I am seeing through a mechanism, not touching reality directly. Have you noticed how sometimes you misremember the color of someone's shirt? Or how you are certain you locked the door, but in fact you did not? Or how old photos can convince you that you were once happier or sadder than you really were? Memory is a skilled editor, always adjusting colors, splicing frames, adding background music. If memory is not absolute, then can the self built upon memory be absolute? If your face in the mirror changes every year, if your habits today contradict those of last year, if your heart loves one person than another, then where exactly are you within that flow? Perhaps you are the flow itself, not the thing floating within it. Tonight, when the city feels thin as a sticky note, we will open the doors one by one. Each door is a paradox, a serious joke, a question that knows how to sing you to sleep. You will step in and out as if trying on shoes in a store with no mirrors, only the real feel of your foot on the ground. You will not get lost, because that bright thread, the awareness that everything is a signal, will always be in your hand. Picture yourself holding a flashlight. Its beam cannot reach the end, but it is enough to see the steps ahead. That is what a thought experiment is. Not the blinding sun, but a light just enough. You shine it on your name and realize the name is only a sound that others call. You shine it on your fear and see it as a drifting cloud, needing no resistance, only release. You shine it on the chair beneath you and see that the feeling of sitting appears in consciousness, like ripples across a lake. If you are ready, let us name the first door, the brain in a jar. Not to make you believe life is fake, but to let you taste the flavor of one question. What can I be certain of without relying on any signal? Let that question sit beside you, like a gentle friend. It will not pull your blanket, it only rests a hand on your shoulder, reminding you, do not fall asleep inside the obvious. Take one more breath. The night does not grow thicker, it only becomes more transparent. You have just seen the invisible threads weaving the tapestry called my reality. Thank you for daring to look. In the next part, we will go deeper into the loom itself. Who is weaving? And is there anything not woven by it? If so, what is it? And can you touch it right now, while your chest quietly rises and falls? Do not rush to answer. Just listen, and keep the flashlight in your hand. We will need it. Stepping into the door of paradox. Do you remember the first door we opened? It was called the brain in a jar. It may sound like a philosophical joke, but tonight it is no longer just a textbook example. It becomes a mirror for you to see yourself. Let us take another step, slowly, to hear the paradox whispering behind that question. Picture yourself sitting in a familiar cafe, the sound of spoons clinking on cups, the light falling through the window, the smell of coffee rising, and in front of you, a close friend. You see every wrinkle on their face, hear their laughter clearly. You believe with certainty this is reality. But if the entire scene were only data streams pumped straight into your brain, how would it differ from the dream you woke up from this morning? You once dreamed you were walking on the beach, feeling the fine sand, hearing the waves, tasting the salty breeze, and when you woke, you sighed. It was only a dream. So, where is the clear boundary between dream and real? Perhaps it is only the act of waking up. But how do you know you have fully awakened? Or are we still inside a larger dream, waiting for a bell that has not yet rung? The paradox lies here. We crave an absolute anchor to separate real from fake. But every anchor we find rests on the brain itself, which is a middleman that can be tricked. Sometimes, that very craving is the trap. We cannot find certainty using a tool that is already limited, like an eye trying to see itself without a mirror. You may feel uneasy, but wait. Let us shift perspective. If all of your experiences are only signals in the brain, does that not make everything you have lived equally precious? A dream that made you laugh was real in that moment. A childhood memory, even if later discovered to be distorted, once warmed your heart. That means the value of an experience does not lie in whether it is objectively true, but in the fact that it once was your world. This is the hidden power of thought experiments. They do not force you to choose real or fake, but open a question. If everything is only signals, then what makes a moment worth living? Perhaps not external evidence, but inner presence. A touch of the hand, a glance, a smile, whether illusory or real, they still move us. Try applying this paradox to an ordinary moment. Imagine you are walking down the street, and a song plays from a nearby shop. The melody stirs a childhood memory, a late afternoon, on the back of your father's motorcycle, passing through rice fields. Maybe that memory is accurate, or maybe your brain painted extra white clouds, cool breezes, and the smell of ripened grain. But in that moment, your heart still trembled. The emotion was real, even if the memory was altered. So perhaps reality is not always out there, but in here, where you are feeling. Therefore, the paradox is not here to make you despair, but to remind you reality is fragile, and that fragility is what makes every drop of time precious. If life is only a movie inside the brain, then you are still the audience laughing, crying, holding your breath at every scene. And perhaps that wholehearted immersion is the only truth you can fully embrace. Pause for a moment. Look around the room you are in. The desk lamp, the curtain, the shadows on the wall, all of them are appearing in your awareness. They may be real or not. But what cannot be denied is this: they are being experienced right now. And that is the source of all real, the experience unfolding. Do you sense the gentle irony of the paradox? It says, you cannot be certain of anything. But that very statement allows you to be certain of one thing: I am experiencing uncertainty. And in the moment you smile at the paradox, you touch a strange truth. No proof is needed out there, only awareness in here. Tonight, as you lie down, you may close your eyes and ask, could everything only be a trick of the brain? Let that question rest there, like a small candle, neither extinguished nor blazing. You may fall asleep peacefully, or you may toss and turn a little longer. But either way, you will carry something with you: the light of the paradox. A light that does not lead you outward, but inward, where each heartbeat keeps steady rhythm, bearing witness: I am living this moment.